and all, it's just another brick in my yard. It's been about a month since my last Yarbo video. I never intended to even post any videos, but I'm trying to get technical support, which if you're a Yarbo customer, you may know that that's very difficult to do and takes a long time. They ended up resolving the last issue I had with the mower deck not working. They sent a new one. My Yarbo is still sitting here. It's still a brick taking up space in my lawn and not working. There have been new issues with it, and I'd really hoped to do a victory video and show you how I have it set up and what it does do, but I've been mowing manually and have gone through frustrating cycles with Yarbo support. So in this video here, I'm going to go ahead and just recap the last experience and talk about the two new big issues we have, which are the battery failing to charge and Yarbo just spinning in circles in the yard. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about Yarbo's quality engineering and how they may be able to improve practices. I've had the benefit of working in a lot of large software shops and global shops where systems could not fail, where doing quality analysis is critical. And it's absolutely possible not to treat your customers like beta testers. It's possible to fix all your problems before they even make it to the customer. And it's also possible to respond quickly to issues that you do find and triage them without the customers even knowing. And this will be a great benefit to Yarbo. As a young company, you should invest in a good work ethic and in figuring out how to get ahead of the curve on your dumpster fire of a product. But in our experience, that's what it's been. But you know, we bought into it, so we do regret the purchase, but we hope the Yarbo can improve and hope that someday I can do a video here and show you it actually working and doing a good job. But that's not what it does now. So the first thing I'd like to cover is just a recap of what occurred before. Last time the mower deck had some manner of failure. It would start, and then as soon as the machine would move, the mower deck would cut out. Yarbo sent a new one. Now, when you go to the support experience, first you're going to call into a number. It looks like it's stateside here in the US, but you're going to realize there's a big delay in the amount of time it takes for the voice communication to go back and forth. So it's an overseas shop. And the other thing you're going to realize too is that if you do get them to make an initial ticket, then they're going to tell you it's a minimum of 24 hours for them to respond, and that's the minimum. In my experience, it's usually a couple of days before you even get a response, and the ping pong back and forth is very, very delayed. And so part of it too is they don't work on weekends, and I don't know, it seems to me that their work ethic could definitely be improved, especially for a startup that wants to succeed. What I did learn is in the last video, in showing my frustrations and ideas on how they can improve some of the software, because a lot of the problems could be fixed. It's just bad software. And they need either to put more critical thought into it, or they need to get better developers. And so whatever it takes to make the product better. Now, I got a lot of backlash from Yarbo fans and stuff like that last time for me being critical, but here's the thing. You're going to frustrate customers when they purchase something and it just sits like a brick in the yard, and then they've got to go do their mowing, and you're not responding to their issues. That's going to happen. Instead of complaining about me making videos, please improve your product. It's too easy to do. and that is what's going to bring success to your company. By complaining and not improving the product, you're only demonstrating that you don't have what it takes to make it. And I can tell by looking at this machine, there are people in your company who care, and you can't do this. So please, Yarbo, take some of these points and just improve yourself, and don't worry about criticizing me. I'm just one of many, many frustrated customers. So now, I know you've asked before, the Yarbo Global user has asked for data in terms of my case number, or actually they asked for my email in a thread. I went, hey, this isn't the place for giving out personal information. It's YouTube. So their business savvy and business ethic is an area where they can grow. Anyhow, this is case number 98600 is the current support ticket. And that's covering the Yarbo spinning in circles. Now, I did get a lot of positive feedback though on the video in terms of other users saying, hey, I've had the exact same experience. And other users saying, the things that you pointed out that I saw, I thought could be improved. Those are things that they thought could be improved too. So I went, wow. Well, that lets me know that these things that we're observing, these are obvious things. If I'm not the only person observing them, there's a bunch of people are, then it should be even easier for your developers to see these things before they even put it out the door. I mean, that's pretty low-hanging fruit if people in your community are seeing these things. And it also demonstrates that if it's so obvious to the community, it's demonstrating the lack of quality in your development department, and you need to improve that. I know it sounds like you're probably going for cheap, but that's going to incur a lot of technical debt. And right now, that technical debt is not only the debt of the machine not performing because of poor technical decisions, that technical debt is also the debt of the frustration of your customers. All of these things can be avoided. So I would encourage you, Yarbo, to learn what technical debt is, learn how to avoid it. And you could do so amazing. You could hit the market so well, but you are not doing. And I want you to do better because you've got my money. And at this point, I've already invested so much in trying to get this damn thing to work. So problem number one, charging. Since I've gotten the Yarbo, the new mower deck back, I put it on there, it goes out and it works. And actually it seemed to be even quirkier than it was before. Later we'll find that we believe that's due to a failure to upgrade firmware. So it's been exhibiting a lot of strange behaviors it did not before. And for a moment I was going, how is it can be worse than it was before with the new mower deck, you know? My goodness, you just want the thing to work. But one of the biggest problems I was having was charging. Now, historically, it's only done this once or twice. Basically, I would get up in the morning, going to do my work for the day, and then realize Yarbo is at 0% battery. And it couldn't charge. And I went, oh my goodness, so you couldn't find your way back to the charging dock last night? And it would be there, and for some reason it would either roll down the dock some or it just wouldn't have engaged. And it's really frustrating though, because you obviously lose a lot of time mowing when it has to charge up to full. And it's frustrating too to see that it can't do something so simple as charging. Now that only happened a couple times, and now it is much worse. It is every single day. After speaking with tech support on this charging issue, I tried to collect video evidence on it because that seems to be a better way to get them to take you seriously, although I don't feel that they've taken me seriously or my problems seriously to this point, and I'll share why in a little here. But I had been collecting video data to show them. And then came the day where Yarbo just started spinning in circles. And went, oh goodness, well now this is a hard fail. Because when the battery was not charging, I could wait a little bit and get it to charge again. And that was kind of the key I found, was it would tell me it wasn't positioned right or this or that. And if I waited an hour or two and went back and tried to charge it again, then it would actually start charging, same position and everything. Now, when I spoke with tech support regarding this, tech support said, oh yeah, that's because the battery was overheating. Now, here's the thing. I understand the battery's got a BMC on there, and that's amazing. That has got hopefully an interface that Yarbo can interact with to let Yarbo know what state the batteries are in. If Yarbo can observe that there is a temperature problem, then it needs to report that in the app, let the user know, hey, the battery's hot, we need to wait a little while. Then the app needs to continue to poll Yarbo and wait till the batteries are at the right temperature so it can begin charging them, rather than having the end user have to wait time and then tell it to charge. Because when this is a daily occurrence, we have lives to live. We get these things here to free our time to do other things. And in my experience, I found that's not the case. You got to babysit this thing every day, all day. And yes, it will take you away from your job. And yes, you will spend time fixing it for the stupid things it does, like not charging. So when support shared this, I shared some of that same feedback, which I'm sure went nowhere, because they certainly didn't document it in any of the emails I received or anything like that. Well, the email I received, because it was only one. But that can be improved. Now, when I asked support, hey, what can I do to mitigate this? How can I help Yarbo to avoid these charging issues? No joke, their response was to not have it mow during the day. They said, don't mow during peak hours during the day. And I went, I live in Texas. I'm out here working in this heat every single day. All my machinery does not fail in it. My golf carts that run on batteries do not fail in it. My video equipment that runs on batteries do not fail in it. Only Yarbo fails in it. So this expectation that we shouldn't mow during the day is like, wow, really? That's your advice to Yarbo users with battery charging issues? Now, I look at it from a critical perspective, and first I go, well, who's a rocket scientist that made this thing black? That's probably going to make it hotter, and even right over the battery panel and everything. First ideas, I go, well, if you wanted, you could even make a little umbrella with it and make sure it's got a coating that is UV reflecting. Now, not only do we have heat in this world, right now we are at a solar maximum cycle. The sun goes in 11-year cycles. And right now we're getting hit with so much more solar radiation. It affects our satellites, it affects communication, it affects power grids, it affects so many things. And that can be mitigated by simply having UV blocking materials. So Yarbo could triage this by making a little umbrella that clips on and keeps it a little cooler to allow us to mow during the day. One of the other reasons that not mowing during the day is ridiculous is I found that Yarbo can't even handle morning dew. It will fail. And that makes me wonder, well, how does it have mowing in the rain options? If it can't handle morning dew without clogging up, how's it going to handle the rain? I don't get it, Yarbo. But we have it start at 10 a.m. I've tried at 9, and it will actually fail and say it has grass clippings clogging it. And I'm like, oh my goodness, my mower has grass clippings clogging it. Lordy help it. And it's not like it's mowing a pasture with tall grass in it. It seems that dealing with grass clippings is something that a mower is inherently going to do. The fact that Yarbo fails at that is Oh my goodness, what can you do but laugh at it? Hopefully they improve that. One thing I have learned is cut at lower heights, which sucks because we want to cut at a higher height to allow the grass to be able to shade the roots. As hot as it gets, that's healthier, makes the grass last for longer. But Yarbo, we find, provides a lesser cut quality when you do that. And the other thing it does is it brings the blades up so close to the top of the deck, the grass clippings can get wedged in there, even sticks and stuff like that. So that's definitely a recipe for you having to go out and fix the Yarbo more often. And by more often, I mean more than once a day. Because typically, you only have to unclog it once a day. Yeah, like that's ideal. Anyhow, the battery thing. Yeah, I don't understand how Yarbo's going to be able to keep up with its schedule as it is. I measured out on a map. It's only doing 1.7 acres right now. And it takes it 6 days a week. Now we do mow twice a week over the same area to help it to be easier for Yarbo, because it needs things made easier for it to get a better cut quality. But we haven't gotten past that, the 1.7 acres. That's like at best, and that's with Sunday off. That allows us to have a day when Yarbo does fail. We have a day to make up for it, and it also, makes it where we're not running it every single day, all day, because it does run from 9:30 or 10 in the morning all the way up till midnight or 1 o'clock to get these 1.7 acres. And that's a far cry from the 6 acres that was advertised, and that's what made me want it. That's what helped convince me to convince my wife, hey, this here is about the cost of a zero turd, and it'll make it where we don't have to mow. Oh my goodness, I've never heard the end of this now. So, Yarbo, you made me look like an idiot in front of my wife for believing in your specs, which are bullshit. Anyhow, what do we do with the battery thing? I think it's absurd that you ask us not to mow during the day. It can't mow during the night because of dew. Honestly, what's the viable solution here? Y'all should make umbrellas for these or something. It's not like we didn't pay you enough money to make these products viable. So, enough of that. Let's move on to the next topic of failure, which is the current support case, and that's Yarbo doing circles. After going through this, I call support. Hey, what do I do? This thing's going crazy. It's just spinning round and round. So support tells me that this is likely an issue due to bad firmware, a firmware mismatch. They say that the firmware had an update failure. It did an update on my machine, and because of that, the old firmware apparently is not forward compatible with the app that they have now, so it will create bugs like this here. And that's also a tell of bad software development. When you introduce breaking changes and you don't observe them beforehand to mitigate them, because it can all be mitigated. And yes, there are times when you have to make breaking changes, but there's also ways to get around that so it doesn't impact the customer. Now, I don't know if Yarbo's using like a microcontroller that has very little memory, or like if they're bit banging on this thing and there's just no room for stuff like that. I wouldn't think that's the case, because the machine's large enough. It could have a larger microcontroller in it with plenty of memory and all that good stuff. But that's the only case I could think of where they're unable to mitigate braking changes. But the support person said that's why it's failing. And I said, okay, well, how do I get this brick out of my yard? Because obviously I need to mow it, and at that point it's just a brick. And so one trick I learned: pop off the battery cover, unplug the battery, and plug the battery back in. Because when it was in that state, if I tried to use the controller to move it, when I pushed forward, it would just spin it in circles. So there wasn't necessarily a case where I could use the controller to move it. So if anyone else runs into that, unplug the battery, count to 10, plug the battery back in, and that should reset its state so that you can drive it with the controller again. Now, obviously, I'm not going to trust it to mow or do anything. It was damaging to do that, and I've seen Yarbo do some damaging things. I had a brand new trailer sitting in my yard once, and Yarbo decided to go up under it and wreck not only the things on the trailer, but also wreck the mower. I went, Yarbo, you couldn't see that big ass trailer right in front of you? No, it could not. Apparently, it can only see the grass. So, you know, little learning on, who knows, both sides there. But I didn't appreciate the fact that it damaged my trailer. And when I reached out to Yarbo support too, they didn't care. They didn't offer anything more than just saying, oh, well, that sucks. Like, really? Oh my gosh, I don't want your compassion. I want you to fix things, Yarbo. And at some point too, I got to point out that you're saying we're sorry and thanks for your patience. They just become worthless words when that's the only thing that comes out of your mouth, and you're not actually doing anything to help the customers. Those apologies have no value. So I finally got the Yarbo driven back to the dock, set on there. Definitely wasn't going to trust it to do any more mowing. And it was in a state too where, you know, I've observed it being super buggy for the last month, and it wasn't in a state where it could be trusted. So the support agent tells me you'll get a response at minimum 24 hours. And I said, okay, the minimum. I said, well, what's the maximum? Because when Yarbo's broken, well, we have to plan to mow, right? It may be taking the day off, but we can't. So it's important to know, what is this window? And when I asked Yarbo what's the maximum this, they said, well, we don't work on the weekends. So that 24 hours is most likely going to be Monday or Tuesday, which that was, I called, this was Friday afternoon that I called. I'm going, well, it's only around noon, like, y'all should still be doing business today, you know. No. So apparently I was to wait 4 or 5 days for a response. Now, I actually got a response. The support person said, well, we'll escalate this for you. I said, all right. Maybe they can find someone who has ethic enough to care about this business and actually work on the weekend. So that, to me, that's crazy, because I've launched my own businesses. I've worked for startups, and generally it takes a lot more investment of your time in the beginning, and you need to be there for customers, especially when your product's a dumpster fire that's constantly breaking and infuriating many customers. So get ahead of that if you care about your company, and because you can right the ship, you know, and hopefully Yarbo does right their ship. I got an email the next day, and the email said, we performed a remote fix. Please continue to observe Yarbo's behavior. No other details in there, no sharing what the remote fix was. Nothing. That's not accountability, Yarbo. It just makes you look like basically either A, you're trolling me, or B, somebody just wanted to be able to send out a token email so they could get back to their weekend. Meanwhile, my weekend is mowing because Yarbo's broken, and I do have other things to do. After getting the email, I go and look at the app and the firmware on it. The firmware's still the same version. Their person who supposedly did a remote fix didn't do anything to change the firmware. So if we still have this firmware mismatch that is buggy, then how is that not going to exist when you don't update the firmware? And if that was the core point of the problem, then shouldn't the person who did this fix, shouldn't they have addressed that? And the other thing too is asking me, keep observing this. Yarbo, I'm not your beta tester. If you can't figure out how to find the root cause of these issues and with confidence treat that root cause and fix it for customers, then you're in the wrong business, because that is largely the core of your business and getting this technology through. And you can make it where it never fails, but apparently you have I would say just a poorly set up software development life cycle in testing. So those are things you can improve, but us customers, we're not your beta testers, and you shouldn't treat us that way. It just shows a lack of maturity in your development. So telling me you performed a remote fix with no details and then telling me to keep watching it, really? Nah, that brick's gonna keep sitting there, especially if I see the firmware hasn't updated. You think I'm gonna risk damage to my lawn and my property again after Yarbo's damaged it multiple occasions? Nope, I've learned, don't risk it. So I guess hopefully sometime this week, I don't know if they closed the ticket or what, I did respond back and I said, hey, can you look at the firmware update? Can we do something about that? And I let them know we're planning to do this video, the next day, and it would be amazing if you could have that updated, because maybe we could do more of a positive video, which I'm trying to be as positive as I can, Yarbo. But there's little to be positive about this. This cost me so much time and so much money and so much frustration, and it's your fault, Yarbo. I honored my agreement by giving you the money. You have not honored your agreement by giving me a product that works. So, you need to work on honesty and work on honoring those agreements. Hopefully, Yarbo figures out how to upgrade the firmware. To add an additional detail to that, whenever I go into my app on my phone, when I go into the Yarbo settings, it does show a little new icon on the firmware version, only for a moment, then it goes away. And then when I go in to look at the firmware version, it shows that it's the old version. So I'll do that now. Let's see here. Pulling up my Yarbo app. Oh, crazy crows. They're always up having fun. Let's see. So I go to my Yarbo settings. It says version information new, and now the icon disappears. If I go in here, it shows that my app version is 3.15.3 and it says latest. It says firmware version 3.8.18 latest. Now apparently that's not the latest. And when I shared that with the support person on the phone, they said, oh yeah, that's not the latest. They said there must be a bug in the app because it's telling you it's the latest when it's not. So hopefully they reported that bug. I'm thinking they didn't though, because strangely enough, the Yarbo support person was saying, well, we thank you for your patience and stuff like that. And I'm sitting there going, I'm beyond patience. Don't thank me for patience. And then the Yarbo support person become impatient with me, and increasingly impatient with me. So to me, it's ironic that you ask for your customer's patience, but when you're on the phone with a frustrated customer, you are unable to express any patience with the customer. That person ended up just being rudely kind of exiting the phone call and hanging up. All right, Yarbo. So it kind of showed me that maybe Yarbo also has an attitude problem, and that may be related to their inability to provide a good software product. And I hope that changes. So let's talk a little bit about how I think they may be able to improve their testing and their software life cycle, or software development life cycle. SDLC, as we call it in the shop. Yeah. One way to improve this is get rid of the concept of using your customers as beta testers. When I asked the support person, hey, how do they go about testing these? Do they have quality engineers? And their response was, no, they had a group of beta testers. And I thought, well, that's a horrible way to do development. And that's not something that's going to help you to identify issues and fix them faster. That is a great way to frustrate customers. Now, I understand doing beta testing if you have a brand spanking new product and it's never been used out in the market, but you're way past that at this point, Yarbo. That shouldn't be a thing. Here's how I think you could be set up to improve it. So let's start at the beginning. Writing unit tests for your code. The unit test will help the developer to walk through everything that they've written and to test that particular unit of code. And that will instantly expose mistakes that they've made. No developers are perfect, so having these guardrails are really super important. Everyone has good days and bad days. Having those guardrails helps you produce a better quality of work on your good and your bad days. So unit tests, super important. Then also functional tests. You need to write tests. Now these are repeatable tests that every time you change the code, you can run these tests automatically against it. And so you put in the work of developing the test to start with, and then you repeatedly run these tests against your software to make sure you haven't screwed anything up. So the functional tests are designed to test the functional aspect. Can it perform these things and produce this expected result? Looking at the behavior of the Yarbo, it doesn't seem that the software is designed in an appropriate way. What I mean by this is that we'll take, for instance, the Yarbo spinning in circles. It should have never done that. It should have been able to identify the fact that something was wrong. How do we do that? Okay, well, inside of your software, you've got your core component that's making the Yarbo do things, and then we have, let's say, this component over here that's related to the drive, the motors, and it's moving around. Create an interface for that. Now, I don't know what language you're programming in, so I'm going to try to use, generic software pattern terms here, design patterns, but you should be able to implement these concepts in no matter what language you're writing in. But in that interface, basically, allow that interface to do everything. Provide an API that does everything the motor, driving, and everything can do. But inside of that interface, abstract it in such a way that it can do sanity checks and verify that it's not going crazy. So, for instance, if you're expecting it to go forward and it can tell it's just spinning, I imagine you've got like a gyroscope and accelerometer on there that can tell these things. Well, inside that interface, it can verify that. And that's abstracted away from the core component. So when you do these functional tests too, you can write them to test just these interfaces inside of your code. Now, if you develop that way, you're compartmentalizing your code in a better way. And let's say even the same thing for the BMC that is on your batteries, where we had the failure of it overheating. We'll create an interface for that as well, and have it do that same interface, have an API that can do everything that the BMC can do, but it gives you, again, a layer of abstraction where you can do sanity checks and stuff like that. Now, you may say, well, that's being thorough, and that takes more time to be thorough. Or maybe you're in a case where the company's just cheap, and they're not giving you time to do that. That happens a lot in the world. And that's where we come back to the technical debt. If you take the time to do it right the first time, then you're going to forgo so much technical debt. And sure, it may be a little bit more of an upfront investment, but as you move forward in time, you are not putting out fires because you did things right in the first place. Sometimes there are business reasons why companies don't allow the developers to do a good job. But if the business decision makers are aware of what technical debt is, then hopefully they can factor that into their decisions and give their developers the time and the money to actually do things right. So moving on, so we've got our unit test, we have functional test. I would also do performance test. Now performance tests just beat the crap out of your software, find the upper limits. Where does it fail? How many commands can I issue to a particular interface before breaking it? Well, this lets you know where your upper limits are. It knows where you can expect failure to happen before you get to it. The other thing it does too is you have this repeatable performance test that is going to demonstrate whether or not your software changes are more or less efficient. Because sometimes you can change something in the software and it makes it perform worse. And you go, oh my goodness, that introduced so much latency in this particular part that now mowing takes an additional hour, you know. And if you have a repeatable test to demonstrate that you're hitting your expected benchmarks, then that's going to help you stay within the limits. It's also going to help you to identify when you improve performance. Now, again, these are repeatable tests. If you had all of these repeatable tests, then each time you do a software release, a software update, they are going to find problems for you, and they're going to keep those problems from reaching the customer. The other thing that I think that would help you too is have a quality analysis environment and quality engineers that run your machine through tests. Set up the same physical test cases. So for instance, you know, we've got slopes out here, different types of grasses. There are, and even sticks of different sizes. You should have an environment set up where your Yarbo goes through all of these cases. Whenever a customer contacts you and says, hey, this Yarbo's doing a weird thing, like for instance, over here, I have I think it's barely in shot, but I have some risers for my septic tank. And there's not a lot of room between that and the deck here. There isn't enough room to drive a 60-inch zero turn through there, though. Plenty of room for Yarbo to get through it. But I see Yarbo get stuck over there all the time, and I go, oh my goodness. You map stuff out. You know what the tolerances are. You know how wide it is. But you can't figure out how not to get stuck in there. So you could take that information and add that physical test case to your quality analysis environment. And every time a customer runs into something like that, you can document it and say, hey, let's find a way to repeat this. So then every time you release your software, you're doing unit tests, you're doing functional tests, you're doing performance tests, and then you're actually running it through an environment that replicates all the real world problems that it's going to run into. And if you did that, oh my goodness, your product would be so amazing. And your customers would not be running into these issues over and over. And you wouldn't be treating us like beta testers, which that really is just a crappy way to treat your customers. We are not your beta testers. We paid you plenty of good money for a machine that works. That's what you should do. Make a machine that works. Do not turn us into your beta testers. So, mine's still sitting here, still a brick. The firmware has not been updated on it. Yarbo sent me a token email yesterday saying we did a remote fix. Please observe it. Nope. I'm not going to allow it to run. It's got old firmware that's already wrecked stuff. Fix the firmware. Now, here's the other thing too, is if this escalated agent that was doing the remote fix, if they missed the fact that the firmware needed updated, then y'all should create a tool that can do just an automated assessment of things that I guess the expected state of the Yarbo. That way your engineers that it's escalated to, or whoever these people are, could utilize that tool to make sure that all the bases are covered. And actually, you could take that same tool and you could even give it to your first line support engineers. Let's go a step further. give that same tool to your first line support engineers and have that tool have the ability to actually fix things. Like the firmware being out of sync. Now, I think that what would have been appropriate, because if you go Google right now, there are a ton of people that have battery issues. There are a ton of people who have issues with Yarbo spinning in circles. If the spinning in circles is related to failed firmware updates, and if you can read the firmware versions from remote, then doesn't it stand to reason that you should write a script to pull all of the Yarbos out there in user land and find out which ones are in this state and fix them automatically? I mean, look at all the phone calls that would skip. Look at all the customer frustration that would forego. It's easy to think proactively. And I mean, sometimes you gotta wonder, like, my goodness, did y'all all get the jab? Are you unable to think? So I know some of you do. I talked to one engineer, a Chinese gentleman, and I could tell he had been up all night. Because if you schedule things with their engineers, you got to do it on their time, which is ironic because they have a U.S. phone number, and I'm presuming that the U.S. is their primary market, but they do not cater to our time zone. But I spoke with this gentleman, and I could tell he was frustrated, and he seemed to share that there was a disconnect between their engineers and their support, and he was super frustrated with all of that too. So it seems that Yarbo has some internal organizational issues that need to be improved. And but what that also showed me is, hey, there are people in that company that care. They're just not empowered to fix anything. I do hope in the future to be able to make a video showing Yarbo doing good stuff and show you how we have it set up and what it does. I've been able to do that for the last couple of months here. We have been mowing. Yarbo's just been a brick here. We have allowed it to try, but it just fails and fails and fails. And ends up, we spend more time trying to triage this thing than, we would have just spent the time mowing. Hell, at this point here, I'm wondering if I've invested more time in making videos than I could have mowed by myself. Yarbo's not going to reimburse us in any way for our time wasted, or to this point they have not. And I've even asked them, hey, can you take back some things like the stupid blower? They told me that this would go through the woods and blow off my trails. And we have all these trails out here. They're just wonderful. We ride our one wheels down them and everything, and it's the ball. And that's one of the reasons I got the Yarbo too. I thought, oh goodness, this can go and blow off our trails and just keep them nice and sweet, And we even welded up a dirt Zamboni to keep that, get that good powder on them trails, And which you can do with dirt, and it's amazing for one wheeling. But anyhow, I asked their support about that too, and they said, yes, this can do this. I asked that before I even purchased it. So I purchased it with all the accessories, and then come to find out, hell no, it can't go through the woods, it can't go down those trails, it will fail. And so I've actually never used the blower. I wish I could get my money back and send it back, because it's just a pointless accessory. And I share this in case any of you are considering getting the whole accessory pack. The trimmer never showed up. We paid for that, never arrived. And the blower is just pointless. We don't blow off the yard here, we mulch. We want the organic material to go back into the soil to become nutrients. We don't want to rob the soil of what nutrients are available. So, I only purchased it because, in my opinion, I feel Yarbo deceived me in telling me what it could do, and it has absolutely failed that. It doesn't do 6 acres either, not in our experience. It hasn't even successfully done 1.7 acres, and I need it to do more. Actually, even with Yarbo mowing, I'm still mowing every week. It's just helping me with a couple of spots and saving me a little time. But we'll see what the future holds. I hope to be able to make like a redemption video and show you things that they've fixed, the ways that they've improved. Yarbo, if you've taken any of these ideas and used them to help improve yourself, please share that with me. Let me know, and I would be more than happy to show that in a future video and say, hey, Yarbo's come around, and you know, they've improved themselves. So I hope that that's the case. So here's to hope, and a brick in my yard. Thanks for watching.
All in all, it's just another brick in my yard.